Imagine standing on the deck of a ship somewhere in the Western Pacific. Beneath you is nothing but dark blue water. Now imagine going down. At 200 meters, daylight starts to fade. By 1,000 meters, the sun is gone completely. Keep going. 2,000 meters, 4,000, 6,000, and by now you've entered what's called the Hadal Zone, a world of darkness, cold, and crushing pressure. And the bottom is still thousands of meters below you. Finally, at nearly 11 kilometers beneath the surface, the descent ends. This is Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, the deepest known point in Earth's oceans, at approximately 10,935 meters. Place Mount Everest inside it, and the summit would still sit more than 2 kilometers beneath the waves. Very few humans have ever experienced this place directly. The first were Jacques Piccard and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh, who descended aboard the bathyscaphe Trieste in 1960. More than half a century later, advanced submersibles finally returned. But reaching the bottom has never meant understanding it. The Mariana Trench isn't simply an empty hole in the ocean floor. It's an environment unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. And the deeper scientists look, the stranger it becomes. At Challenger Deep, there's no sunrise, no sunset, no seasons of light, only darkness. Water temperatures hover just a few degrees above freezing, but the most extreme force down here is pressure. At the deepest part of the trench, it's roughly 1,000 times atmospheric pressure at sea level. For an unprotected human, the environment is completely inaccessible. Even exploration vehicles have to be engineered specifically to survive it. And yet, the Mariana Trench is alive. That was one of the great surprises of deep ocean exploration. Early scientists once assumed the deepest ocean would be nearly lifeless. Instead, researchers have found animals and microorganisms adapted to conditions that seem almost impossible. Amphipods, small crustacean-like creatures, move across the Hadal seafloor. Sea cucumbers survive in total darkness. Single-celled organisms live in the sediment, and, higher up in the trench, strange snailfish have adapted to pressures that would destroy most familiar vertebrates. Their survival raises an obvious question. How far can life actually go? There does seem to be a limit. Research suggests that somewhere around 8,200 to 8,400 meters, pressure becomes too extreme for fish physiology, and so far, no fish has been confirmed living beyond that boundary. But life itself doesn't stop there. It just changes. Descend past 8 kilometers, and the world grows increasingly unfamiliar. The fish seem to vanish. Other forms of life keep going. Part of the answer may come down to chemistry. Organisms living under that much pressure need their proteins and cell membranes to keep functioning under conditions that would disrupt biology near the surface, and hadal creatures have evolved remarkable ways of managing that. Fish, it seems, simply hit a wall they can't cross. Below their limit, the ecosystem is dominated by life built very differently. Amphipods, sea cucumbers, tiny organisms buried in the sediment, and microscopic life invisible to the naked eye. This is where the trench gets genuinely interesting. When scientists examined sediment samples from Challenger Deep, they found something they didn't expect. Unusually high microbial activity at the deepest seafloor. In one study, biological oxygen consumption there was roughly twice what researchers measured at a nearby site about 6,000 meters deep. And the Challenger Deep sediments also held higher concentrations of microbial cells. In other words, the deepest point in the ocean isn't a barren wasteland. Organic material drifting down from the water above accumulates in the trench, feeding microbial communities living under extraordinary pressure. At almost 11 kilometers down, there's still an active ecosystem, and scientists are only beginning to understand who actually lives there. This might be the strangest part of the whole story. Not giant creatures, not mythical monsters, something far smaller. Microbial communities surviving at the very edge of what we once thought possible. Modern genetic techniques let scientists study organisms that would be nearly impossible to observe directly, and samples pulled from hadal environments have revealed complex microbial communities adapted to extreme pressure, total darkness, and very little food. Research has also turned up remarkable viral diversity in the sediments of Challenger Deep, which doesn't mean scientists found some dangerous mystery virus. Most viruses in the ocean simply infect microorganisms and are a normal part of marine ecosystems. What's notable is just how much of that diversity still hasn't been cataloged. We've reached the deepest known seafloor. We've photographed it, sampled it, measured it, and still, much of the biology living there remains largely unstudied. There's one more discovery down here, though, that's harder to sit with. Evidence of us. Human-made debris has reached the hadal ocean. Plastic has been documented at extraordinary depths, including near the deepest parts of the Mariana Trench, and microplastics have been detected in sediment from Challenger Deep itself. Think about what that actually means. A place so remote that only a small number of people have ever reached it directly has already been touched by human pollution. Even here, almost 11 kilometers beneath the Pacific, we left something behind. For decades, popular culture has imagined the deep ocean as a hiding place for monsters. It's easy to see why. Darkness creates possibilities, and when we can't see what's ahead, imagination fills the gap. But the real Mariana Trench doesn't need monsters to be extraordinary. Its mystery is quieter than that, and maybe more powerful. Scientists have mapped the ocean floor with growing precision, yet large stretches of Earth's seafloor still lack modern high-resolution mapping, and exploring the deepest trenches is harder still. Every instrument sent down has to survive enormous pressure. Every sample has to travel kilometers back to the surface. Every expedition illuminates only a tiny fragment of an immense, largely unseen world. Our machines arrive with lights blazing into darkness that has never known sunlight. For a few hours, cameras reveal a patch of sediment. A strange animal drifts through the frame. A robotic arm collects a sample. Then the vehicle rises, and the darkness closes back in behind it. The Mariana Trench reminds us of something easy to forget. We live on a planet dominated by ocean, and yet some of its most extreme environments remain among the least understood places on Earth. We've stood on the moon, we've sent spacecraft past the outer planets, and we've descended to Challenger Deep. But arriving somewhere has never been the same as knowing it. Maybe there's no hidden monster waiting at the bottom. Maybe there's no lost civilization. Maybe the truth is more interesting than either. Almost 11 kilometers beneath the Pacific, an ecosystem operates under conditions the human body could never survive unprotected, shaped by millions of years of evolution. Home to microscopic communities scientists are still working to understand, and full of questions we've only recently learned how to ask. The deepest known point on Earth is no longer unreachable, but it is still far from fully understood. And somewhere beyond the narrow beam of an exploration vehicle, the trench continues into darkness, waiting for the next light to arrive. This is Unknown Archive, and some of Earth's greatest mysteries are still here.